How many times have you felt like your business is taking over every aspect of your life? Or maybe you're just struggling to find time for self-care, self-maintenance, while trying to reach those consistent 10K months. If you come to understand mindset, you understand that your business won't grow unless you know it's safe to grow. And today we're going to explore the Solopreneur's Wheel of Life as a way to help you assess to be able to better create the business that supports your whole life and the things you really want. Because we know there's more to business and more to life than just the money coming into your bank account. I'm glad you're here today. Are you tired of growing your business alone? Let's work together to turn up the volume on your unique brilliance and transform how you connect with your ideal clients. Welcome to Authenticity Amplified. I'm Shawna Rodrigues, podcast strategist and founder of the Solopreneur Sisterhood, making sure you get the actionable insights you need on mindset, messaging, marketing, and all things business. Is the Wheel of Life a concept you're familiar with? The first time I ever filled out a Wheel of Life was when I was in Seattle at the Oprah Life Your Way conference. It was an amazing opportunity. I'd also just gone through a big transition in my career and was between jobs. The most powerful thing I got out of that exercise was that when I completed it, it was this beautiful picture of balance in my world, and I wasn't working. That surprised me. It surprised me that I could have everything else feel so on track when I took that one piece out. And I thought back to the job I just left that had been very draining and taking a lot of focus, and how with that taking so much, everything else had been out of balance. It was a good realization for me. And as I've built my business and worked more independently since that time and had other jobs since that time, it was something I was wary of and took the time to recognize how easily one thing in your life can pull everything else out of balance. And as solopreneurs, it's very easy for our business to become a main focus that pulls other things out of balance, which is why a tool like the Wheel of Life can be something so valuable for us to use. When I was starting the podcast network about 3 years ago, there was an opportunity for me to do a Wheel of Life. And interestingly, I was part of a couple different communities, and I had 2 different Wheels of Life in front of me, 2 different templates for me to use. And I filled out 2 of them. And I was glad that I did, because one of them showed me way off balance, and one of them showed me in a much better place. And I'll show you one of those wheels if you're actually on the YouTube being able to see this right now. And this one was from Oprah, from the Life You Want planner that I'd received. And doing that, it had some really great categories it was looking at. And I enjoyed doing it because there was areas where I needed to build on, but overall it was pretty well balanced. And I did a different one from another organization, and I wasn't balanced. But I realized I was using someone else's measuring stick. And using their measuring stick, things felt really off. And it wasn't my priorities. It wasn't my goals. So it's really important to know what you want and what you want to have balanced. And interestingly, the Wheel of Life that they had for Oprah's Life You Want was more along my lines. Its categories were integrity, vulnerability, connection, being fully present, resilience, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, renewal, service, gratitude. You know, I'm all about gratitude, joy, reflection. Isn't that fabulous? And doing that, those were all areas that I rose pretty high and was pretty happy with where my measurements were at. And so I think that whenever you're using a measurement tool and going through exercises like this, it's important to customize them and create them to fit what things you have in your life and want in your life and what things you want to be building and excelling at and planning for. And that's why any planning process always starts with what you want and what your goals are versus mapping things onto somebody else's goals and what they decide you want. So even as we start this discussion, I want you to feel empowered to be able to move things around, to be able to fit where you are and what you want. I was just in Mexico not that long ago on a women's retreat, and they did the Wheel of Life. And the categories that they presented were spirituality, play, health, career, relationships, community, adventure, and money, which is also good examples. And I still traded out two of those categories to something that resonated more with me. And so anytime you're doing this, if you're going to come up with a good plan for you, you need to always adjust the things to fit for you. And when there is a scale, you need to adjust the scale to what fits right for you and where you want these things to be, right? Because the society measurement, there was one of the categories. And if you're on YouTube, you can see mine. I had a water bottle that leaked. And so mine got to become this beautiful running colors together because mine got wet. And so it got to be mixed colors together. And you can't see what I ranked half of it as because they just became a blur of colors. Good reason to go to YouTube and finally watch this on YouTube if you hadn't before, so you can see that. When I did this, there was one of the categories that changed greatly when I changed the term. And that was career. Like I changed from career to being impact. And that's what I decided that category needed to be my work. And it was so funny because it was career. It was like, I gave it like a 7. And then when it came to impact, it went up to a 9 because the work I do, I have a big impact. And that's what I want. So I want an impact. I don't want a career. I want impact. And so that changed greatly when I changed the thing and changed to what my measurement was and what I want to be doing. And that changed it immensely for me. So when you're doing this, like that's the very first step is to start looking at what you measure and to make sure it's what you want to measure and what's actually important for you and adjust things accordingly, right? And as we go on and we have this conversation about the solopreneur lens and looking at this that we're going to talk about today, trade things out. Like if we go back to, like I said, the Oprah one that resonated so much for me and was so great when I did it because it was a business group that I did the other one with that did not resonate at all for me when I first started my other business. And I loved doing the Oprah one, right? Because integrity, 10, like done, happy with that, right? And gratitude, like I said, big thing, happy connection, all these different things on here that really connected with me. So if you're like, you know what, being fully present is something that matters to me and I want to add this into this category or these other pieces I talked about, compassion, empathy, you want to see those, do that or do 2 separate wheels, right? Do the wheel with these categories I mentioned that are reflection, integrity, vulnerability, connection, being fully present, resilience, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, renewal, service, gratitude, joy, like one that has all of these categories that you're measuring, and then one that has the business end, right? So maybe do one that reflects on your relationships or one that reflects on your family. Like you can do multiple wheels and see what needs to keep them flowing and able to round out and go the way they need to. You can do it for different areas of your life and figure out where there's a dip in which area needs to be filled out so it can flow. So you can do one specific for family, specific for business, specific for your well-being. You can look at it in multiple ways. So don't feel constricted by the conversation we're going to have today. Feel inspired by it and be able to fill in and build out the way that you feel it works best for you, because that's how these things happen, right? We're here to build upon for each other and inspire each other and build these things out in the way they need to be done. So traditionally, it's usually done around career, health, family, friends, romance, relationships, personal growth, fun or recreation, and your physical environment. So how this fits specifically with solopreneurs is kind of how I divided it up and what we're going to talk about today. And so that's something that you can look at for you and see if there's different ways, different areas that are more important, or that you want to make sure that are included. Balance doesn't mean equal time in all areas. Some things are more important to you. Some things are a 10 for you, and physical environment might be something I think of as a 5 for me, right? So my physical environment may need to be spotless, organized with a beautiful view and be inspiring. And for you, physical environment to be a 10, it just needs to be safe and quiet. And that's all you really need for your physical environment to be a 10. So for different people, there's different levels, right, of what you need in different areas. And that's fine. And that's okay. And that's the beauty of this adaptability of this instrument for you to be able to make it fit for you. And that at different points in time, you can have it be in different places, and that works as well. It's really an awareness tool to stop and pause and look at these different areas and to reflect on where you want to build out and what you want to give more attention to and what you haven't noticed as slipping a little bit, right? Okay, so let's talk about, for a solopreneur, these different areas and what this might look like or mean for you on a 1 to 10 scale of looking at things. So for business and career, like I said, when I was at the retreat, I changed career to impact. And we actually have impact in a different area here. And we will look at this as business and career as your business and what you're doing with it, right? So for you, 1 to 10, 0 being not flowing, not working out where you want it to be, and 10 being where you want it to be, this can look like 0 to 10. 10 can look like you having good boundaries between work and the rest of your life, you feeling like you have goals set, you have a strong feeling of where you're going, you have supports, you have a direction, and things are consistently moving there. You set up the little steps that you're going there and you're moving in that direction, and you have a direction and you have clarity, and your business is going the direction you want it to go. That can be your 10, right? So that's what you need to figure out, like what that 10 looks like for you. Is it clarity? Is it having a strong community? Is it having good goals and having your plan laid out? Like, what does that look like for you? And are you there? Or does it feel like, I don't really have a clear direction. I'm not sure where things are coming from. I'm not sure where I'm going. I don't know really what I want to be doing. I don't know who I'm serving. I don't know. So then that's like a little bit muddier, and I'm working a lot of hours and feel like I'm not getting where I want to be. So then that would be a lower score in that area. So then that's an area you might want to work on, right? So that's what you need to look at with the business category to see like where you are in that and how you want to score yourself 0 to 10. And when you do it on an actual wheel, you can actually like print out a wheel and do those pieces of the 0 to 10. So you can say like, okay, I like using highlighters instead of actual pens because they just like flow easier to fill out those areas, and just like highlight up to like, where am I going with this piece? So you can just visually look at it and say, okay, that's the area where I might be lower. That's the area where I might be higher. And depending on where I'm at building this out, like, is this something where I'm only partway there, or I'm pretty much on the right direction? This feels like I'm going where I need to be. So financial wellness. And again, we're kind of looking at the solopreneur piece. And so this is like bringing together not only your business, but your overall financial well-being, right? Are you in a feast or famine cycle? Are you not at a consistent place where you know where that next influx of funding is coming for your business, and you feel like you can pay out the bills, and you feel secure in knowing that there's a cycle and there's a flow and things are going where you want them to, and things are building and growing at a steady pace, and you understand how things are going to work and where they're going to flow? Like, do you have a comfort and security in that? If so, like if you got a comfort, security, and you know that things are flowing in a steady cycle, then you're at a high end with that. If things aren't consistent, if you don't have customers, if things aren't flowing and you aren't sure where they're going, that'd be lower. And maybe if you are putting into place those things, it might be in the middle and going up, right? Because you know it's going to be coming, you know it's going to be there. So looking at where the finances with your business are and where it kind of falls on that spectrum of 0 to 10 of where you would put that. When we actually put the physical and mental health together, and I've actually, in one of the categories when I was doing things, when I was in Mexico this year, I put a line down the middle and like did one half this, one half that. And you could do that. If your physical and mental health, you feel like are in two different places, that you're like, I've got this mental health dialed in, but I've got this physical stuff going on. Like I'm healing a bum ankle, and that's requiring this piece of me physically, but mentally, like I think I'm in a pretty good zone. I got a good handle on things. I know where I'm headed. I know where things are at. Pretty strong with the mental game and where I'm at with my mental health, but physically got some things I'm figuring out and working on. And so that's the piece you got to figure that out, 0 to 10. Like, am I feeling good? Am I taking care of my body? Am I eating where I need to be? Am I resting as much as I need to rest? Am I making sure that I'm keeping burnout at bay because I'm working through the tough emotions and finding my space on the other side of that. Like, am I taking care of myself in those ways? And am I getting the movement in that I need? And this feels good. And I feel like I'm going in a good direction. So to go ahead and rate 0 to 10, physical and mental health. And again, split if you need to. Keep them together if you feel like they're pretty well entwined on the same track. Figure out where you need that to be. And then relationships will be the next category we're looking at. The relationships, that can be one that you do want to divide out too. You could put that as your friendships in one category and your family on the other category. Like, see like where you want that to kind of blend together, right? Or if you want to just keep all those relationships together because that fits for you, that's entirely up to you. And so to figure out like, where are you doing with that? Are you able to nurture these connections and still feel that you're supported and that you're able to support others and be able to balance those pieces with your relationships while doing the other parts? Or is that a piece that kind of isn't getting as much as you would like? Or if you actually listen to the 20 questions for a year well loved, are you able to have those conversations with your partner? Or is that a piece where you don't feel comfortable having deeper conversations? That's something you'd like to change, or if you're happy where it's at, right? So thinking about your relationships and what you would like differently, or if you feel like there's support where you need it, things are nurtured and they're there, or if that's something you feel like there could be more and you like it different, and to put that on that same scale to be able to put that into perspective on things. And then personal development. And we've talked about this more than once. Are you getting sick of it yet? Hopefully not. Hopefully you feel like it's resonating in your saying-ness, that growing as a person is an important part of growing your business, that those things go hand in hand, and being able to open yourself helps to open your business, and to be able to see the ways you can improve helps to see the ways your business can grow and improve too. That especially as a solopreneur, that you're definitely connected to the results that are happening with your business. So how is that going? Is that something where you feel like, yeah, I'm actually enjoying this journey? It's not easy, but I'm on board with it. I'm having the growing pains, but getting to new places and new heights and seeing the benefits of that, and seeing fruitfulness in other areas outside of my business, even because I am doing these efforts and having this growth that I'm having. So I feel like growing as a person is something that's working well for me. And I give myself a 10 because I'm putting the time in and I'm making those things happen. And I feel like this is successful. Or if it's like, I'm exhausted by it, the thought of it's overwhelming, listening to this podcast is about the only thing I have time for. And I've only done that twice. And so it's something that I feel like it's just down here a little bit lower, and it's not something I've really had time and space for. And to figure out like where you fall on that spectrum of 0 to 10 on doing things. And it really is fun when you use different colors, because you can have a different color for each part of the circle so that it's kind of fun and build it out that way. What about creativity and innovation? So at some point, hopefully I have a friend of mine who's really great with innovation and the importance of innovation in business, right? And so creativity and innovation is hard to do. You're working long hours and you're stressed out and you're drained, right? To be able to have fresh ideas and new ways of looking at things, new ways of doing things, fresh perspective, new approaches, all of that can be challenging when you're in the grind, exhausted, just trying to keep things moving forward. And having this alignment and this ability to grow and pivot and expand your business is something that's really exciting, but requires that creativity and that innovation. And chances are you became an entrepreneur because you had tendency towards this, connection with this, and pieces of creativity and innovation already within you. So how has that been going? Like, how have you been able to nurture that and incorporate that into your work and into your business? Is that something that you're like, oh, that's right. That's why I started doing that. That's important for this. But over the last 6 months or year, there hasn't been time and space for this. So yeah, I see where I want that to be, but it's only a 3 right now because there hasn't been room. There's just been so many other things. Or to be like, oh, that's why I'm here. I like the creativity and innovation, 10. Implementation of it, the financial results from it, I haven't had space for. But the creativity and innovation, I'm a 10. So you can really look and see like, where is that at? How's that going? Right. And then thinking about community and possibly putting the impact in with the community to think about like, how has that worked for you to be able to make meaningful connections and be able to make an impact? So some of that's like the networking, the connecting with other solopreneurs, other entrepreneurs, with your local community, with other people that are doing similar things to you, or in your niche that are customers that you're connecting with, your potential clients. Like, how are you doing at building those connections and being able to like see movement, or even volunteering or serving on boards or being involved with other things that are able to make that impact, to make you feel that connection with the community and your ability to make that impact? How is that? How is that going for you and moving for you? Is that something that you are making solid efforts, or is that something you tried? And again, time, energy, focus, right? That's something that fell to the wayside a bit, and you weren't really seeing immediate results. And so you were doing less of that, and then realizing, wow, maybe that did have an effect on some other pieces of my work too. So maybe that is something that's only been a 2 or 3 because there hasn't been time and space for. Or maybe no, you've been great about that. You've been showing up for things, getting involved in things, and it maybe is pulling from somewhere else because you've been putting so much into that. But you've definitely been doing that and showing up, and you enjoy that. So give yourself your 0 to 10 on how that's going and where you're showing up in that area. And then we're going to go ahead and put systems in with physical space, because systems are an important part of business. And this is kind of where this can fit in a little bit. So like, what about your space, your environment that you're in, and the systems that keep things working and flowing? Because that's kind of that environment within you which you work. How are things flowing around you? How are things working? Like, so think a little bit broader than just like your desk and the lighting and your view and that type of thing. Like, are things organized and accessible? Your physical space is your computer. Is your computer have a system set up so you can get to what you need and your clients can reach you online, right? Because a lot of the physical space becomes your online space if you're an online business person. And so systems end up playing into that. So for me, my physical space includes my YouTube and my podcast setup and the systems that connect all of those, and the web presence, and the platform that we use for our membership. Like, all those different things are part of my physical space. Does that make sense? It's like you had to broaden your thinking when you're not just the lobby, the building, the space that you're doing your business in, right? Because you're doing your business online. And so the systems play into your physical space as well. And so I invite you to like think about that in this category, because we want to make sure we're taking them into account. We're kind of doing this 360 wheel of solopreneurship assessment of looking around at all the things and seeing where they're at. So as you look at all these areas, to go back there, and I'll go back there and just list them each one time and won't talk as much this time. So even if you don't have an actual circle template you've printed out, that you can just go through and do a score of 1 to 10, 0 to 10 on each of these to give you a sense, now that we've talked about a little bit, of where you're at, so that you can decide like, okay, this is where this is, and this is where things are currently. So business and career. So business largely for you, like the overall flow of the business and how you're interacting with it and how you feel about it overall. Your financial wellness. Touch some of that about the cycle of things, right? Your physical and mental health. And pausing so you have time to actually write things down. If you're driving or doing something else right now, don't do this. Just come back to this part of the episode a little bit later to do this. Your personal development, like where you feel like you're 0 to 10 on a scale of figuring that piece out. Creativity and innovation. Community impact. And then physical space, which we include systems, since a lot of us are online businesses, and that systems piece is part of that. So looking at all those things and giving them a 0 to 10 score, with 10 being right where you want it to be, and 0 being not jiving at all. And remember, 10 is where you want it to be. And so you can be subjective and have this be on a curve, right? Of like, my 10 is not your 10, and that's perfectly fine. If you got this where you want it to be and think it's right where it needs to be right now, perfect. And I love your ability to be able to dial into this is where I want it to be right now. It's right where it needs to be. That's great. So as you do that, this should give you an idea of like what came in at a 5, what came in below a 5. What's the area that has the lowest? And because you're doing this on a scale of where you want it to be, it should be as clear cut as whichever area has the lowest number is the area that needs more attention. And it is important also that we can identify that, maybe the reason that I have a 10 in my community and impact, and I have a 2 in my physical space and systems is because I haven't been doing things with systems in my online space because I've been physically with my local community and focusing on that. And do I need to adjust where I want this to be? And that maybe the systems are okay because I do need to be more in person. The in-person stuff is good and that my systems are okay. Or is this also impacting? And that's why my financial stuff is actually a 4, is because this one is off kilter. And that maybe the community impact, I need to go to a little bit less of this and do a little bit more over here. Or I can just build on and do a little more focus on my systems. And that'll bring that up. And I can still keep my community impact at the same level. And that'll be okay as well. But understand that sometimes there's like a balance and a pole. That maybe all of these things together don't add up to 100% in every single category. That we can only get an 8 average for all of these. And so when we have a 10, we're going to have a 6 somewhere else. And we need to be okay with having a 10 and having a 6, or we need to let this go down to an 8. So this might can come up to an 8. And that's okay because that balances it out. And there's only so much of us to go around and only so much time and space we have to offer to all of these things we want to be doing to make our business the best it can possibly be, right? And to have that awareness. And then once we know, okay, so I have a 2, let's say I have a 2 in physical and mental health. And physical and mental health is very important. And so I'm going to decide physical and mental health, I have a 2 in it. So I need to give myself some specific tangible goals and habits, not just goals, but habits in this category to start building this up and see if it requires that one of my 10s needs to back up so that I can push that up. So my 10 needs to come down to an 8 so I can push that 2 up a little bit, right? So a little bit less here so I can push this up a little bit. Or personal development is the one that I want to build up and get to a different place. And so I need to make adjustments somewhere else for that as well. Is that interesting? I know a lot of people, when they do this, they don't talk about bring your 10 down to an 8. They act like everything needs to be a 10, which, I can't even pretend that's possible because I guess I've been doing this long enough, or I know about the guilt that happens when you try to make everything a 10 and it just makes you more exhausted and burnt out instead of recognizing that you gotta figure out that everything can't be a 10. And so you either need to adjust your scale so that the 8 is a 10 for you. And if you can adjust this so the 8 is a 10 for you, that is amazing. That is amazing. That is a gift. And that's probably the ideal is if you adjust this, you see the 8 as a 10. But a lot of times we're putting 10, we push this one category up to a 10. So we get our business up to a 10 and then our relationships shrink down to a 2. So maybe we need to let our business come down to an 8 so we can push our relationships up to a 5. And our personal development is down at a 2 and our financial wellness is down at a 2, but our personal development is at a 10, right? And so we got to figure out, well, I want to change that around. I want to be able to focus a little less on personal development and focus on my financial wellness or focus on my physical and mental health instead. So sometimes you need to balance the wheel as well. And I don't think people talk about the balance element of this, which is why we included that in the title, because there is an element of us recognizing what areas we want to build up, what areas haven't been getting attention, and bringing our focus to those areas. But also, we're human. There's only so much for us to go around. So to understand how we can do that and what that requires sometimes, that we need to find what we can possibly use as something that we can let go a little bit or not give as much of a focus to for the time being, so we can give some focus to something else that we want to be building out a little bit more. So that's probably the biggest thing that I want you to kind of take away from this, is that the areas do impact each other, and sometimes in beautiful ways. Like as we build up our personal development, we might naturally see the financial piece rise up, right? As we get things in alignment, the other pieces like come up as well, and we can build out each of those areas. And as we get the balance of it all together, like it all builds out together. And that's amazing. At the same time, if we're putting all of our efforts into innovation and not putting our efforts into our mental wellness and our physical health, that sometimes it'll end up pulling everything else down. So we need to kind of see that piece. And as we decide to build out areas, that it is goals, like one small step at a time, right? One small way we can improve that or change that. If we decide we want to do more with our health, that we decide like one little small step and make it a habit and make those changes, which we need to have an episode around habits and small changes, that we do build out that one piece, but that we also get accountability and support for that. And that's one reason why we have the Solopreneur Sisterhood, is that accountability and support. So I want you guys to keep those elements in mind as well as you look at this and start to think about what do you need to build out and want to build out, and how you can incorporate more of this into that balance. So definitely take the time, if you were just listening, to actually sit down and do this and look at this assessment, and then choose the area you want to focus on and actually come up with a small goal and habit that can be part of that. So as I was building out mine and on the trip that I was on in Mexico, for instance, my area that was one of the areas that was low for me was actually play, because they had that category in there. So that's not on my list. You can add that list. Like I said, make this fit for you, right? So play was an area that was lower on mine, and health was an area that was lower on mine. And so interestingly, I actually have made plans to go dancing with friends, and I've gone on more walks since I've been back, because that was the actual thing that I could do and incorporate more. Let's be more active in ways that are playful and fun and also healthy. And so I needed to have a specific thing that I could do, that I could integrate to be able to make that happen. And so that's the type of thing you need to do, is to find like, what's the little thing that I can do that I can integrate and to actually make happen with that. So hopefully you can find something very specific about that. And if that's something you need help with, is how to have those goals and dashboard and way of looking at that and build out your business, get connected to the Solopreneur Sisterhood, because this community is a resource for really transforming your business from a grind to aligning with your goals and allowing you to make the impact you dream of while still balancing these other pieces. And it's great to have a community to support that. So keep that in mind. Show notes will give you directions to either, depending on where we're at when you're listening to this, to either get on the wait list or to actually figure out when we're opening the community again for you to actually get involved in being part of that, because those connections can really make a difference. And if it's not in a place for you to be able to do that for whatever reason, like find your people, find your resources to help you be able to have those conversations, have that connection, and have that accountability, because that does help. So this week, there isn't any premium content. We're keeping it to this right here. There's plenty of premium content to catch up from other episodes if you are interested or are part of that community, because we definitely want to keep you intrigued and connected with that. We also have some pretty interesting news coming up in the next couple of episodes you're probably going to want to tune in and to be part of. So take the time to share this with somebody else, another solopreneur you know, if you resonated with it and think it'll be something to help them. And then you can have a whole conversation around it. Because remember, that's part of creating the community, is connecting around these things. So don't forget that true success comes from building a business that enhances all areas of your life, not just your income. So glad that you're here. Glad that you took the time to listen and be part of this, and that you are prioritizing your development and being part of this community. If you found this video helpful, don't forget, check out these other videos and subscribe. You want to be around to keep growing your business authentically.